We would like you to be less conditional. That's obvious from everything that you've heard us say. Less conditional means not letting law of attraction get hold of your thoughts and take you and those thoughts to places that you don't mean for them to go. So what are you going to do about breaking that cycle? Sleep more. But a really good process is meditation, because when you meditate, you stop thought, and when you stop thought, your cork will float. When you stop thought, your cork will float. What are you doing? Floating my cork. What? What? I'm floating my cork. I've been worried about you for quite a while. Because when you're not thinking any thoughts, so do you meditate? 15 or 20 minutes is enough. And in that 15 or 20 minutes, if you only get to a non-thought segment that lasts a minute or 2 or 3, you've had a really good time. Because in that 2 or 3 minutes that you've managed to quiet your mind, your cork will float. And when your cork floats, your vibrational frequency raises. But the most important thing about that is you have a conscious realization through every bit of your physical body of what that feels like. You've practiced that frequency, so now your propensity to do it again is greater. You can get to the point where you can just stand behind a thing and close your eyes with the intention of quieting your mind. You go right there. But it just takes some practice and some willingness to quiet your mind, some willingness to withdraw from the objectivity that this life sort of demands from you. You've been trained to weigh the pros and the cons and the pluses and the minuses. You've been trained to focus on all of it. You want to be really objective. No, you don't. You think you want to be objective so you can make good choices. No, you don't. Life helps you make the choices. What you want to do is make the choice to be happy. Do you want to be happy or sad? That's not very objective. Want to be sick or well? Again, what's wrong with you people? No objectivity. You never say, I think that I'll be sick for June. I've been well most of the year. There's a lot of sick people out there. Okay, June's my sick month. So you all, as many of you want to, take my wellness and run with it, because I'm going to be sick for a little while. You don't say that, do you? And yet with so many other resources, you act like you think there's a big financial pie out there, and if somebody is prospering, that somehow they're depriving you. They're not depriving you. They just tapped into the signal, and the more who tap into the signal, the bigger the economy becomes, you see. So what do you want to talk about? We're eager to talk with you about anything that matters to you. There's nothing off limits here. It's going to be a perfect unfolding. You're really going to like this. Co-creation at its best. Absolute co-creation at its best. Begin right there. Yes, you are the one.
Well, I had a perfect story for this morning, because I had a 17-year-old son who was supposed to take the SAT test. And he's a new driver, so he heads off early, afraid of the highway, so he goes to the back roads. He calls up with about 20 minutes to go before the test and says, I forgot my entrance form. No picture, no ID, nothing. So I'm about 1 mile from the exit, the first exit available, to stop and help him. And I get this phone call, just turned my phone on, and I pull off the exit and I tell him, I'll go get it for you. Stop back at the house, come back to the college where he's about to take his test. He gets the form with 2 minutes to spare. Now I thought, well, I'm playing with this because I'm wide open, not listening to podcasts, not listening to you, not listening to anything in the morning, just saying, let's see what the morning will bring. And it all worked out perfectly without a moment to spare. Because what the morning brings is perfect timing, always, when you are in the receiving mode. So in your cork floating, absence of resistance. So his impulse came just at the right time. He realized before it was too late. He knew who to call, because you are, in many regards, and nothing wrong with it, a well-known path of least resistance for him. Always.
It's all right. It's all right. That's what cooperative components are. His timing was just right. Your timing was just right. That's that sweet spot that we're talking about. Now, there are plenty who would destroy the benefit of that knowledge by a lecture. You've got to make lists. You have to pay attention to what you're doing. You know, you've got to grow up. I'm not always going to be there to rescue you.
Right.
But these are not the things that you want to teach your kids. What you want to teach your kids is good timing, good impulse, good timing, good co-creation, good cooperative components, good outcome. Because this is the way thoughts turn to things, you see.
Yeah.
Now, of course, you see, this is what we were talking about earlier, about pulling it back. Esther's got an application on her phone that is a list. She really likes it. And so when she thinks of something, she just enters it. And she can put it in categories. And then when she's in that segment, she just looks to remind herself of the things that she meant to do. And then she just chooses the ones that feel like the most like she wants to do them. And so she's staying on top of things comfortably in that way. But after a little while of letting that list lead her around by the nose, and it does, it's a very demanding thing. She puts it in and she knows it's there.
Always.
And it is always there. And when she looks, it says, do me, do me, do me. It doesn't say, what do you feel like doing? And so your son could have been more efficient, could have been following a list, could have had a checklist. And there are many people who will speak to the importance of that, especially if you have a lot of moving parts that you're attending to. But if you are turning your power over to the list instead of to your vortex and your inner being, we so want you to hear us when we say, your inner being knows where you are in relationship to everything you want. And there is something so dynamically satisfying about having so many intentions that are bubbling in this vortex and so many cooperative components that are moving all around you, and you moving freely as you were describing yourself to be, so that the impulse that came to you caused you to dovetail. And wasn't that a high? Didn't you feel exhilarated about how that all came about? Didn't you feel more
I've
like...
been running on a high for the last hour and a half. I mean, when you get the phone call, you're like smiling, ooh, let's see what happens here. This is going to be all step 5 for the next hour and a half. I got this one.
When you realize that there are things like that and hundreds more of them that all have the ready potential of popping for you, can you imagine what a glorious life experience you have as you move from experience like that to that, to that, to that, to that?
Our dinner conversations have changed from what did you do at the office, Tom, what did you write about, what blah, 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 to it's all turned into what were your step 5s today? What were those accidental things when you were relaxed where it felt so good that everything worked together?
Yeah. Well, it's delightful to play with all of you, but our delight is exponentially exaggerated when you are in that place where you are consciously recognizing that you are playing.
I play a lot.
Where you're no longer holding yourself or anyone else hostage to your lists or hostage to demands that you've placed upon yourself, but instead you're accepting that the vortex has been created by you and is calling, and that the cooperation of all that is there, and then you chill out, take care of yourself, be nice to yourself, and then watch how the universe tends to you.
I've seen a ripple with the 3 boys and my wife all cooperating to back off on each other and just let each other tell them what they've learned through the experience, as opposed to jumping in there and saying, you should have done this, you should have done that. And over the last 5 years since we've been listening to you, I've seen such an ebb and flow where people just late in the evening are telling you about a massive experience and it all worked out and they're just chilling. It's just great, as opposed to saying where it used to be, you should have done this. There's no more should haves.
Another thing that you're coming to be aware of, and it's an important thing to insert here, is that sometimes when you're in that flow and you receive an impulse about something, that others who aren't up to speed with you, who don't understand your relationship between where you are and where you want to be, see it as a misstep when, since it's an impulse that's coming from your inner being, it may be walking right into a situation that could be deemed even a problem, that causes a clarity of asking that is supporting so many other things that you want.